The afternoon sun streamed through the glass windows of Montgomery Innovations as Natalie Brooks typed frantically on her computer. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, crafting the quarterly marketing report that Lucas Montgomery had requested. By 5 o'clock, the modern office buzzed with activity around her, but Natalie remained focused on her screen, determined to meet every deadline perfectly. Her phone rang suddenly, shattering her concentration. Caller ID showed Riverside Elementary School, and Natalie's heart immediately began racing. Schools never called unless something was wrong. "Hello, this is Natalie Brooks," she answered, trying to keep her voice steady. "Mrs. Brooks, this is Nancy from the school nurse's office. Emma has come down with a high fever and she's been sick to her stomach. We need you to pick her up immediately." Natalie glanced at the clock on her computer screen. It was only 3:15 p.m., and she was supposed to work until 6. Her stomach twisted into knots as she looked across the office toward Lucas Montgomery's corner office. Through the glass walls, she could see him in a meeting with 3 serious-looking men in expensive suits. "I'll be there as soon as possible," Natalie promised, already reaching for her purse. The intimidating boss Lucas Montgomery was everything that intimidated Natalie about the business world. At 34, he had built a tech empire worth billions, and his presence commanded respect wherever he went. His dark hair was always perfectly styled, his suits custom-made, and his intense green eyes seemed to see right through people. In the 18 months Natalie had worked as his marketing coordinator, she had rarely seen him smile. He was demanding, precise, and expected nothing less than perfection from everyone around him. The other employees whispered that he had never taken a vacation, never missed a day of work, and certainly never left early for personal reasons. Natalie stood outside his office door, watching through the glass as he gestured emphatically during his meeting. She had no choice but to interrupt, even though the thought made her palms sweat. Emma needed her and nothing else mattered. She knocked gently on the door and waited. Lucas glanced up, saw her through the glass, and held up one finger indicating she should wait. 5 long minutes passed before the meeting finally ended, and the suited men filed out. "Come in," Lucas called, not looking up from the papers scattered across his massive desk. The desperate plea, Natalie stepped into the office, her heart pounding. So loudly, she was certain he could hear it. The office smelled like expensive leather and coffee, and the view of the city's skyline through the floor-to-ceiling windows was breathtaking. "Mr. Montgomery, I'm really sorry to interrupt, but I have a family emergency," she began, her voice slightly shaky. Lucas finally looked up, his green eyes fixing on her with that intense stare that always made her feel like he was reading her thoughts. He leaned back in his leather chair and waited for her to continue. "My daughter Emma is sick at school. The nurse says she has a high fever and I need to pick her up right away. I know we have the quarterly reports due today, but I was hoping I could leave early and finish them from home tonight." Lucas was quiet for a long moment, his fingers drumming silently on his desk. Natalie could feel her face burning with embarrassment. Gosh, she hated having to ask for special treatment, especially from someone as successful and intimidating as Lucas Montgomery. "How often does this happen?" he asked finally. "What do you mean? These emergency calls from your daughter's school? How often do they disrupt your work schedule?" Natalie felt a flash of defensive anger but pushed it down. She needed this job and she couldn't afford to lose her temper with her boss. "Emma is a healthy child, Mr. Montgomery. This is only the 2nd time this year that I've had to leave work for her. I'm a single mother, and sometimes these things are unavoidable." The unexpected proposal, Lucas stood up and walked to the window, his hands clasped behind his back. He stood there silently for what felt like forever, and Natalie wondered if he was trying to figure out how to fire her politely. "I have a proposition for you, Miss Brooks," he said finally, turning back to face her. "A proposition? You can leave early today to take care of your daughter. In fact, you can have flexible hours whenever you need them for family emergencies. No questions asked, no docked pay." Natalie blinked in surprise. This was not what she had expected. "It's very generous, Mr. Montgomery, but I don't understand. What's the catch?" Lucas walked back to his desk and sat down, his expression unreadable. "I need a favor in return. A rather unconventional favor." "What kind of favor?" "I need a girlfriend." Natalie was certain she had misheard him. "Excuse me?" "Not a real girlfriend," Lucas clarified quickly. "A fake one. Someone to accompany me to business dinners, charity galas, and social events. Someone who can help me avoid the constant matchmaking attempts from business associates and their daughters." The business arrangement, Natalie stared at him in shock. Of all the things she had expected him to say, this was definitely not one. Of them? You want me to pretend to be your girlfriend? Think of it as an acting job. You would accompany me to perhaps 2 or 3 events per month. And nothing inappropriate, just social appearances. But in exchange, you get the flexible schedule. You need to take care of Emma. Natalie's mind raced. The flexible schedule would be a godsend. She wouldn't have to worry about rushing to pick up Emma from school or finding last-minute babysitters when meetings ran late. But pretending to be Lucas Montgomery's girlfriend seemed like stepping into a world she knew nothing about. Have the right clothes for those kinds of events? She said weakly. That would be covered as a business expense. Wardrobe, jewelry, whatever you need to look the part. And how long would this arrangement last? 6 months initially. If it works out well, we can renegotiate. Natalie thought about Emma waiting for her at school, probably scared and feeling sick. She thought about all the time she had stressed. About balancing work and motherhood, all the sleepless nights worrying about money and job security. Can I think about it? Lucas nodded. Of course. But Miss Brooks, your daughter is waiting for you. We can discuss the details tomorrow if you're interested. The drive to understanding Natalie hurried out of the office, her mind spinning with questions and doubts. As she drove to Emma's school, she tried to process what had just happened. Lucas Montgomery, the most eligible bachelor in the city, wanted her to be his fake girlfriend. It seemed like something out of a romantic movie, not real life. Was waiting in the nurse's office, looking pale and tired. Natalie's heart ached as she gathered her daughter into her arms, feeling the heat radiating from her small body. "Mommy, I don't feel good," Emma whispered. "I know, sweetheart. Let's get you home and take care of you." As they drove home, Natalie couldn't stop thinking about Lucas's offer. Emma dozed in the back seat, and Natalie found herself imagining what it would be like to attend glamorous events, to wear beautiful dresses, to be seen as the companion of one of the most powerful men in the city. But it was all pretend. Lucas didn't want her for herself. He wanted her as a shield against unwanted attention. Still, the practical benefits were undeniable. With flexible hours, she could be the mother Emma deserved without constantly worrying. About her job. The weight of decision that evening, after Emma's fever had broken and she was sleeping peacefully, Natalie sat at her kitchen table with a cup of tea and tried to make sense of her situation. Her small apartment felt cramped compared to Lucas's sprawling office, and she was acutely aware of the financial struggles that shaped every decision she made. She thought about her ex-husband, who had left when Emma was just 2 years old, claiming he wasn't ready for the responsibility of fatherhood. She thought about the long hours she worked to make ends meet, the constant juggling act between career and motherhood. Lucas's offer represented an opportunity she never could have imagined, but it also represented a step into a world where she would be completely out of her element. Could she really pull off being the girlfriend of a billionaire? Could she navigate the social expectations and scrutiny that would come with such a role? As she sat there in the quiet of her apartment, one thing became clear. She was tired of struggling alone. If Lucas Montgomery was offering her a way to provide better for Emma while advancing her own career, maybe it was time to take a leap of faith. The next morning, she would give him her answer. 3 days after accepting Lucas's proposal, Natalie found herself standing in the most expensive boutique she had ever entered. The saleswoman, Catherine, had been handpicked by Lucas to help transform Natalie into someone who could believably be his girlfriend. "Mr. Montgomery has excellent taste," Catherine said, holding up a stunning emerald dress against Natalie's frame. "This color will bring out your eyes beautifully." Natalie stared at herself in the three-way mirror, hardly recognizing the woman looking back at her. The dress was more elegant than anything she had ever worn, and the price tag made her dizzy. One dress cost more than her monthly rent. "Are you sure about the size?" Natalie asked nervously. "Trust me, darling. When you walk into that charity gala tomorrow night, every eye will be on you." Lucas had arranged for everything. A hair appointment at the city's most exclusive salon, makeup consultation, even lessons on proper etiquette for high society events. Natalie felt like Cinderella being prepared for the ball, except this fairy tale came with a contract and an expiration date. The first public appearance, the Children's Hospital Charity Gala, was being held at the Grand Ballroom of the Meridian Hotel. As their car pulled up to the red carpet entrance, Natalie's hands began to shake. Through the tinted windows, she could see photographers, reporters, and elegantly dressed guests making their way into the hotel. "Remember," Lucas said, adjusting his black tie. "We've been dating for 2 months. We met when you started working at Montgomery Innovations, but we kept things professional until recently. What if someone asked specific questions about our relationship?" Lucas turned to look at her, and for a moment, his usually stern expression softened. "You look absolutely stunning, Natalie. Just be yourself, and everything will be fine." Car door opened, and Lucas stepped out first, then extended his hand to help Natalie. As she emerged from the car in her emerald gown, camera flashes immediately began popping. Lucas placed his hand gently on the small of her back, and they walked toward the entrance together. Navigating high society inside the ballroom, Natalie was overwhelmed by the opulence. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, and the tables were decorated with elaborate floral arrangements that probably cost more than her car. Everyone seemed to know Lucas, and he gracefully introduced Natalie to business partners, city officials, and socialites. "Lucas Montgomery, I was wondering when you'd finally bring someone special to one of these events," said Margaret Thornfield, the wife of a prominent real estate developer. "Margaret, I'd like you to meet Natalie Brooks." Margaret is one of the hospital's biggest supporters. "It's lovely to meet you," Natalie said, grateful for the etiquette lessons she had received. "And what do you do, dear?" "I work in marketing," Natalie replied smoothly. "I specialize in digital campaigns for technology companies." Margaret seemed impressed. How refreshing to meet someone with an actual career. So many of the young women at these events are just looking for wealthy husbands. As the evening progressed, Natalie found herself relaxing into the role. Lucas was attentive without being overly affectionate, and their conversations felt natural. She began to understand how someone could become accustomed to this lifestyle. The rival arrives halfway through dinner. Natalie noticed a stir at the entrance of the ballroom. A striking blonde woman in a red designer gown was making her entrance, and several people turned to whisper among themselves. "Who is that?" Natalie asked quietly. Lucas's jaw tightened, almost imperceptibly. "Rebecca Stone. She owns Stone Media Group." Natalie had heard of Rebecca Stone. She was a successful businesswoman, known for her ruthless tactics and her reputation for getting whatever she wanted. As Rebecca made her way through the room, it became clear that her destination was Lucas's table. "Lucas, darling," Rebecca said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "How wonderful to see you here. And who is this lovely creature?" "Rebecca. Meet Natalie Brooks." "Natalie, this is Rebecca Stone." Rebecca's smile was sharp as a knife. "Natalie Brooks. I don't think we've met before. Are you new to the city?" "I've lived here for several years," Natalie replied, sensing the underlying hostility in Rebecca's tone. "How interesting. And you work in marketing, I assume?" Most of the women Lucas dates seemed to be in supportive roles. Natalie felt her temper flare, but kept her voice calm. "Actually, I develop comprehensive digital strategies for technology companies. It's quite challenging and rewarding work." The challenge escalates. Rebecca's eyes narrowed slightly. Of course, Lucas has always appreciated intelligence in his companions. "Tell me, how long have you two been seeing each other?" 2 months, Lucas interjected, placing his hand over Natalie's on the table. 2 months, Rebecca repeated thoughtfully. "Strange. I was at the Palmer Industries launch party just 6 weeks ago, and Lucas was there alone. I would have remembered seeing such a striking couple." Natalie felt a moment of panic, but Lucas remained calm. "You were keeping things private." "Initially, Natalie values her privacy, and I respect that." "How considerate," Rebecca said, her smile becoming even more predatory. "Well, I do hope you'll both attend my anniversary party next month. It would be such a shame if you couldn't make it."
Ass.
After Rebecca moved on to terrorize other tables, Natalie turned to Lucas. "She knows, doesn't she? She knows this isn't real." "Rebecca suspects everyone of ulterior motives because that's how she operates," Lucas said quietly. "Don't let her get to you." Unexpected moments. As the evening continued, something unexpected began to happen. During the charity auction, Lucas bid on a week-long vacation to Tuscany, and when he won, he leaned over to whisper in Natalie's ear, "I thought you and Emma might enjoy a real vacation sometime." The gesture was so thoughtful and unexpected that Natalie found herself genuinely moved. This wasn't part of their arrangement, and yet Lucas seemed to be thinking about her daughters' happiness. Later, when When they were dancing to the orchestra's slow music, Natalie found herself looking up into Lucas's green eyes and forgetting, for just a moment, that this was all pretend. "You're a natural at this," Lucas said softly. "At what? Being yourself in a room full of people trying to be someone else?" The comment caught Natalie off guard. "Is that what you think I'm doing? Being myself, aren't you?" Natalie considered. This, despite the expensive dress and elegant surroundings, she had been speaking honestly about her work, her interests, and her opinions. Maybe she hadn't been pretending as much as she thought. The evening's end as their car pulled away from the hotel, Natalie felt a strange mix of exhilaration and confusion. The evening had been successful from a business standpoint. They had appeared convincingly as a couple, and several people had complimented Lucas on his choice of companion. "You exceeded my expectations tonight," Lucas said as they drove through the city streets. "Thank you, though I have to admit, Rebecca Stone made me nervous." "Rebecca makes everyone nervous. That's her superpower." Natalie laughed, and Lucas smiled in response. It was the first genuine smile she had ever seen from him, and it transformed his entire face. "Can I ask you something?" Natalie said. "What really happened between you and Rebecca?" Lucas was quiet for a long moment. "We dated for about a year. 2 years ago, she wanted to merge our companies, create a media and technology empire. When I realized that was her primary interest in our relationship, I ended things. That must have been difficult. The difficult part was realizing I had been so focused on building my company that I had forgotten to build a life. Rebecca helped me see that, even if she didn't mean to." When they reached Natalie's apartment building, Lucas walked her to the door like a real gentleman. "Same time next week?" he asked. "The Palmer Foundation dinner?" "I'll be ready," Natalie replied. As she watched his car disappear into the night, Natalie realized that somewhere between the charity auction and the last dance, the line between pretending and reality had begun to blur. That scared her more than any business rival ever. 6 weeks into their arrangement, Lucas surprised Natalie with an unexpected invitation. He had purchased a small island retreat off the coast of California for business purposes, and he needed to visit it for a weekend to assess potential development opportunities. "I know this is beyond our usual agreement," Lucas said, standing in her office on a Friday afternoon. "But several investors will be there, and it would look strange if I came alone. Would you be comfortable bringing Emma along? I've arranged for activities she might enjoy." Natalie's heart skipped a beat. Emma had been asking more and more questions about the nice man Mommy worked for, especially after Lucas had sent flowers when she recovered from her illness. The idea of her daughter meeting Lucas felt like crossing a line into something dangerously real. "Are you sure that's wise? Okay. Emma might get confused about our relationship." "I've thought about that," Lucas said quietly. "Maybe it's time I met the most important person in your life." The helicopter ride to Lucas's island was Emma's first time flying, and her excitement was infectious. She pressed her face to the window, pointing out boats and dolphins in the water below. Lucas patiently answered her endless questions about how helicopters work and what they would find on the island. The island was even more beautiful than Natalie had imagined. A sprawling beach house sat on a cliff overlooking the Pacific Ocean, surrounded by tropical gardens and walking paths. Lucas had arranged for a full staff to cater to their needs, but he insisted on giving Emma the tour personally. "Amazing, Mr. Lucas," Emma said, her eyes wide as she explored the house. "Do you live here all by yourself?" "I don't live here full-time," Lucas explained. "I come here when I need to think about important decisions." "Like what kind of decisions?" Lucas glanced at Natalie, then knelt down to Emma's eye level. "Well, recently I've been thinking about what makes a house feel like a home. Business. Meetings and family time." The other investors arrived Saturday morning for meetings about the island's development potential. Natalie was impressed by how Lucas balanced his business obligations with attention to Emma. During breaks in the meetings, he would take Emma to explore the tide pools or teach her to identify different types of seabirds. Rebecca Stone was among the investors, and her presence immediately put Natalie on edge. Rebecca had barely acknowledged Natalie's greeting. She watched every interaction between Lucas and Emma with calculating eyes. "Quite the family scene," Rebecca commented during lunch, her voice carrying across the patio where Emma was showing Lucas a seashell she had found. "Emma is a wonderful child," Natalie replied evenly. "Of course she is. It's just interesting to see Lucas playing the father figure. He's never shown interest in children before." Natalie felt a protective surge of anger. "Emma isn't a business strategy, Rebecca. She's my daughter. Oh, I didn't mean to imply anything inappropriate, Rebecca said with false innocence. I just find it fascinating how people change when the right opportunities present themselves. The truth comes out that evening, after Emma had fallen asleep. In the guest room, Natalie found Lucas standing on the beach watching the sunset. The business meetings had concluded successfully, but she could sense something weighing on his mind. "Penny for your thoughts," she said, joining him on the sand. "I've been thinking about what Rebecca said today, about me playing the father figure." Natalie's stomach tightened. "Lucas, you don't have to worry about Emma getting too attached. I can explain to her that our arrangement is temporary. What if I don't want it to be temporary?" The words hung in the air between them like a challenge. Natalie turned to look at him, searching his face in the fading light. "What are you saying?" Lucas took her hands in his. "I'm saying that somewhere in the last 6 weeks, this stopped being pretend for me. I'm saying that watching you with Emma today, seeing how she lights up when she laughs, made me realize what I've been missing in my life." "Lucas, we come from completely different worlds, do we? Because when I watch you navigate a business dinner or hold your own with people, like Rebecca, I see someone who belongs anywhere she chooses to be. And when I see Emma look at you like you hung the moon, I see the kind of love I've never experienced but always wanted." Rebecca's final move before Natalie could respond. They heard footsteps approaching on the beach. Rebecca peered, apparently. Having overheard their conversation, "How touching," she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Lucas, surely you don't expect anyone to believe this sudden romance is genuine. Everyone knows Natalie's your employee." Former employee Lucas corrected. "As of Monday, Natalie will be transitioning to a consulting role with much more flexibility." Rebecca laughed coldly. "A convenient promotion. How much are you paying her to play house with you?" Lucas stepped forward, his voice dangerously quiet. "Be very careful, Rebecca. You're talking about the woman I love and her daughter." Rebecca's eyes glittered with malice. "Lucas, you don't know what love is. You know what mergers and acquisitions are? You know what profit margins are? But love, you're fooling yourself." The moment of truth, Natalie felt something snap inside her. For weeks, she had questioned her own feelings, wondering if what she felt for Lucas was real or just gratitude for the opportunities he had provided. But hearing Rebecca attack him, seeing the pain in his eyes, made everything crystal clear. "You're wrong," Natalie said, stepping beside Lucas. "Lucas knows exactly what love is. He knows it's getting up at 5 in the morning to make sure everyone else's day runs smoothly. He knows it's remembering that my daughter loves dolphins and arranging for her to see them from the helicopter. He knows it's listening to business presentations all day and still having energy to build sandcastles at sunset." She turned to face Lucas fully, "And I know what love is too. It's feeling safe enough to be yourself with someone who could have anyone. It's watching someone be patient and kind with your child when they don't have to be. It's realizing that all the things you thought made you different from someone actually make you perfect for each other." Lucas's eyes widened. "Natalie, are you saying?" "I'm saying I love you, Lucas Montgomery. It's not your money, not your status, not the opportunities you've given me. I love the man who remembers how I take my coffee and worries when I'm running late. I love the man who made my daughter feel like a princess without making her feel like a charity case." The perfect ending. Rebecca stood speechless for a moment, then turned and walked away without another word. Lucas and Natalie barely noticed. "Her departure? Are you sure?" Lucas asked, cupping Natalie's face in his hands. "Because once we cross this line, there's no going back to being just business partners. I've never been more sure of anything in my life." Lucas kissed her then, soft and tender under the stars, with the sound of waves lapping at the shore around them. When they broke apart, they were both laughing and crying at the same time. "So what happens now?" Natalie asked. "Now we stop pretending and start living," Lucas said. "Now we figure out how to blend our lives together in a way that makes Emma feel loved and secure. Now we build something real." The next morning, Emma woke up to find Lucas making pancakes in the kitchen, humming softly to himself. She climbed onto a stool and watched him work. "Mr. Lucas, are you going to marry my mommy?" Lucas paused, spatula in hand, and looked at this wise little girl who had stolen his heart almost as completely as her mother had. "Would that be okay with you?" Emma considered this seriously. "Can we keep the helicopter?" Lucas laughed. The sound filled with pure joy. "Can definitely keep the helicopter." 1 year later, Lucas and Natalie were married on the same beach, where they had first admitted their love for each other. Emma served as the flower girl, wearing a crown of real flowers and riding down the aisle in a miniature helicopter that Lucas had commissioned just for her. In her wedding vows, Natalie promised to love Lucas not just in the easy moments, but in the challenging ones. She promised to build a life with him that honored both their individual dreams and their shared future. In his vows, Lucas promised to always remember that the best things in life couldn't be bought or negotiated, only nurtured and cherished. He promised to be not just a husband to Natalie, but a father to Emma in every way that mattered. As they danced to their first song as husband and wife, with Emma spinning in circles around them on the beach, Lucas whispered in Natalie's ear, "Thank you for saying yes to leaving work early that day." Natalie smiled, thinking back to that desperate moment in his office when she had been so afraid of asking for help. "Thank you for making it the best decision I ever made." And as the sun set over the Pacific Ocean, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, the Montgomery family began their new life together, proving that sometimes the most unexpected proposals lead to the most beautiful love stories. Their fairy tale had begun with a simple question about leaving work early, but it ended with a lifetime of coming home to each other.